And indeed, some of these repair bills are coming in very high. And basically, that stock would have been, housing stock would have been lost to the province, to the owner, unless those investments were made, and putting the 16 in under wrap would have just not done the job. In addition to that, we've got the rental preservation program, which actually accounts for 25% of the $37.26 million. And in essence, there we're talking about addressing the poor condition of rental units, and I think that I leave that to the members' imagination, that you hear some stories that really need attention. I know that here in the city we hear some pretty gripping stories, and it's a concern I know of all the municipalities to maintain a certain level of quality for tenants. Fully half of the program is going to be going into more rental housing, affordable rental housing, and that is what the member, I think, is referring to with the recent call for proposals. That money should be allocated approximately according to the population across the province. We did a study to determine the areas of need, and when you say need is not a homogeneous thing. It's in Cape Breton, for instance, there's a desperate need for more non-elderly single units. In the city, there's a need for more family units. So we've tried to target where those monies should go, and we look forward to the response to the request for proposals, and from that we'll be able to determine through the assistance of some committees that are put together to judge those proposals, to make recommendations.
Thank you, Minister. I recognize the member from Cape Breton West.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's a question I've asked other ministers and their estimates. You have a number of employees in the Department of Community Services. Obviously, the issue of releasing names is for a future debate. However, my question to the minister is, how many employees in your department have received performance bonuses in the last year?
Thank you for the question, and direct that to the Minister of Community Services.
We will obtain that number for the honourable member. The honourable member knows that we're not able to divulge the names of the employees other than the very senior ones, the deputy, my EA, and the deputy, the assistant deputy, and my EA, assuming that they are on the list, which I think they are.
Thank you, Minister. The member from Cape Breton West.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Releasing the names, that'll be a debate for a future day. However, just shifting the focus slightly, your department is responsible for the regional housing authorities. Is there any policy change contemplated organizational-wise or administratively in terms of these regional housing authorities across the province coming under closer scrutiny or management from the department? Is there going to be any restructuring or realignment in that focus?
Thank you for the question. Direct that to the Minister of Community Services. Minister.
There's no change in the anticipated management structure. They report to the regional directors, who report to the regional administrators. So it will be the same management structure in place.
Cape Breton West.
Who is the overall administrator or person in charge from the department in charge of these regional housing authorities? Who's the person in charge?
Minister of Community Services.
The senior director in charge of ESAA and housing services is Harold Dillon, and you would know Harold as the former executive director of the Metro Housing Authority.
Thank you for the answer, Minister. Recognize the member from Cape Breton West.
Yes, in the Cape Breton region, I understand there's a considerable vacancy rate in many of the seniors' housing units, and indeed some of the public housing units as well. Would the minister please confirm as to what the vacancy rate is in the Cape Breton region? You can do it, you know, name by name or just give me a collective, but I'd like to kind of get an overview of that.
Thank you for the question, and recognize the Minister of Community Services.
We'd be happy to try to obtain those numbers. What the member makes reference to is that some of the units are much sought after, and there's waiting lists, indeed long waiting lists for some. Others which by virtue of maybe their location or condition or for whatever reason are not so sought after, and in fact there can be vacancy problems there. The member from Halifax Atlantic was making reference a couple of weeks ago to the Greystone Housing Authority development, or the Greystone community, 252 units, and the honourable member might be interested to know that it was only a couple of years ago that it was hard to attract tenants there. We had 30 or 40 vacancies due to initiatives and investments made by the Metro Regional Housing Authority. That has now reversed itself, and there's a small waiting list. But I think that what the member's getting at is that just because it's public housing does not mean that it's a homogeneous product that everybody wants to get into right across the board. Depends, it varies between the various developments.
I'd like to recognize at this time the member from Cape Breton West.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. How much money is committed by the department to do repairs to these public housing units in the Cape Breton region this year?
The Minister of the Minister of Community Services.
I thank the honourable member for his question. I do not have it broken down into regions, but I can give him a global number, and we'll endeavour to get the breakdown. Well, maybe I could give the global number, and we will endeavour to get you the Cape Breton number. For maintenance, $11,907,500, and for modernization and improvements, $5,570,600. So if you would add those two together, you'd get an idea of the size of the global budget.
The member from Cape Breton West.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I understand there's a considerable waiting list for seniors who live in their homes applying for emergency assistance. Can the minister confirm, region by region, what the backlog or the waiting list is? How many are on the waiting list for each of those regions in the past year?
The Minister of Community Services.
We'd be pleased to try to obtain those numbers for the honourable member. The housing repair housing program, the housing repair programs are in considerable demand. Clearly, the emergency programs should have a shorter waiting list, but in general, for the housing repair programs, say RAP, you're looking at about a year's waiting list, unless it's an emergency, in which case they do try to accommodate those situations.
The member from Cape Breton West.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My colleague asked a little earlier with regards to the increase in the food allowance. I believe it was indicated $4 a month. Is that correct? That amounts to 13.3 cents a day for food. That's on top of the daily allowance, which I believe was less than $1. Am I correct on that? How much was the daily allowance prior to the 13.3 cents a day increase?
The Minister of Community Services.
The basic personal allowance is $180, of which currently $131 is for diet, for food. So you can do your own math depending on the length of the month.
The member from Cape Breton West, finishing his math.
Now, that's for one person. What what's the situation for, is it increased incrementally, the $130 a month for every person in the home, over and above the one? Is that correct?
Thank you for the question. Minister of Community Services.
The $4 a month increase is going to take effect for every adult on community services effective October the 1st of 2004. The children would be receiving the National Child Benefit, which amounts to something over $250 a month, which in essence does the same thing as the basic personal allowance, except it's for the children. And as the honourable member would be aware, when we stop the clawback, that now in essence goes to fully provide for the food and clothing of the children.
The member from Cape Breton West.
Yes, it's an issue that has been raised by the member for Dartmouth South with regards to the assisting individuals on social assistance going to upgrade their education. At one time, the department would fund up to 3 years so as to allow individuals to receive a university education. Now that's been cut back. They're forcing people on community service benefits to go to community colleges. Now, I realize there's been considerable concern by government that too many individuals in the province in general have been going to university and not enough to the community college. And they're looking at labor market issues and contemplating a shortage of certain trades and vocational training jobs over the next 20 years. Is that the underlying reason why the department has decided not to allow community service recipients the 3-year program like they used to, and now only 2 years?
Thank you, member. Recognize the Minister of Community Services.
The purpose of this is to try to assist community services clients is to have a bit of a leg up to, say, level the playing field with everybody else that might want to attend university. By doing this, it allows them to get to obtain a career. First of all, in many cases, to finish their high school, and then to build on that so that they get some sort of career. And if they choose to go beyond that point and go to university, then they have the same opportunity as any other Nova Scotian.
Member from Cape Breton West with 3 minutes left in turn.
That's patently untrue, Mr. Chairman, because I can attest to the fact that there's a senior director that works in government who had the misfortune of being required to depend on community service benefits at one time. And if it wasn't for that 3-year university program, she wouldn't be where she's at today, a single mother of 2 small children. And the minister trying to patronize single mothers again here in the province by saying they're not good enough to go to university. I think that's absolutely disgraceful for this minister to have such a condescending view of single mothers who are forced to depend on community service benefits, and saying, you take the community college career because we're going to be big brother and we're going to look after you. I think that's absolutely disgraceful, and especially for a minister to have that attitude. Mr. Chairman, I think if the minister wants to do anything good, he should, I guess, maybe he should reconsider the policy that's been implemented under this administration, by the way, because for whatever reason, maybe they see it as a cost-cutting measure. And as the point has been made, the end benefit, the government gets its money back 2, 3, 4 times over. You know, once an individual is able to get, as the minister would say, a leg up. Well, really what the minister is doing is kicking people in the ankle. You know, you're crippling people. I guess the question I have is, how many people, prior to that change of policy, how many people took advantage of that 3-year program within the department? How many people? just in the last year. It doesn't appear as if you know the answer. Is that correct? I can take it on notice.
I'd like to recognize the Minister of Community Service.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. And the member asked a historical question that long predates my time as minister, but I would like to get up and point out that the employment support component of the Employment Support and Income Assistance Program, which came into effect on August the 1st of 2001, has gone from virtually zero to approximately $16 million. That the program is working, the numbers are dropping, the response has been very positive by many that have taken advantage of this opportunity. I've had great response back from the caseworkers, and basically this has been a success story. $16 million into employment support is a significant investment, and it's not only the fact that they are able to work their way off of community services, but they are allowed to get a foot in the door to get that career, and from there they're able to build. It's good for the individual, their self-esteem, for their families. It's good for the community, and it's good for the province. And this has been a very positive initiative on the part of this government, and I would like to give credit to the former Minister of Community Services.
Thank you, Minister, and I'd like to advise the member the time is finished for the Liberal caucus questioning for this afternoon, but we'll be able to revisit it on Monday. Indeed, Monday will be the appropriate time for that, and thank you for your questionings this afternoon. At this time, I would like to recognize the member from Sackville-Cobequid, and that would be from the NDP caucus, and you have approximately 3 minutes in turn. So let's hear your best question for this afternoon.
Well, I don't know if I'll have any questions this afternoon, but I might wait, and I'm sure Monday will be another day. But I do want to make a few comments. It's a pleasure for me to rise in this estimates to ask questions to the Minister and his staff, dealing with, especially in my critic area, being the housing critic for our caucus. Over the last 9 months as a new member, the anticipation after the election to see what critic areas you'll receive was there definitely, and I left it open and made some recommendations and encouraged my leader to give me some important areas to hopefully learn a little more about and hopefully be productive and definitely criticize, if that's a word you want to use, what the government has been doing or hasn't been doing. Over the last 9 months in housing especially, it's a very important issue to many Nova Scotians, especially with the rising costs of rent and mortgages and the increased cost of purchasing a home, especially around here in HRM in the cities. But it's an issue throughout the province, and we've heard from every corner of this province in our caucus about problems in their area, about affordable housing, conditions of housing, and the ability to just get a home that they can raise their family in. So definitely my questionings, especially on Monday, will pertain a lot around the affordable housing agreement, of course, because with this agreement that was set up in September of 2002, I believe, which I think was signed out at the Halifax, the airport hotel, I believe, was when the signing was. I believe I may be wrong on that, but it's. No, you're okay. That's right. It's been interesting to see this development, and of course I've brought a lot of attention to it over the last little while in question period to the minister, and he's been trying to give me his best answers, and there's many answers that need to come out of this, I think, with this agreement, because it really, I think the federal government, when they downloaded onto our province, they realized that there was a need to get back into social housing and to deliver some extra help to the provinces to get back to the people of each province, because it's been a crisis over the last 10 years, and I think it's not going away. So there'll be several questions around that, and I hope that we can clarify.
Order, please. I'd like to inform the member that time is complete for the estimates today. And at this time, I would like to recognize the government House Leader.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I move the committee to now rise, report considerable progress, and beg leave to sit on a future day.
So moved and agreed to.
Chairman of the committee will host the supply reports.
It's met, made progress, and begs leave to sit again.
Is it agreed? Get 11 minutes. The Honourable Government House Leader.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, would you please call the order of business private and local bills for second reading?
Private and local bills for second reading.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, would you please call Bill number 69, the United Way of Halifax Region Act?
Bill number 69, the Honourable Member for Cole Harbour, Muscatawbet Valley.
Colchester, Muscatawbet Valley. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I would move Bill number 69, United Way of Halifax Region Act, for second reading. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Dartmouth, South Portland Valley.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I just want to acknowledge the tremendous contribution of the United Way of Metro Halifax to this community specifically, but also their leadership role to the voluntary sector, both here in the province and across Canada. I want to congratulate the board, the staff, the volunteers, and the member organizations at this significant time in their development. And I'm pleased to say that they are resident. They have their offices are located within Dartmouth, South Portland Valley, and we're very pleased to have them there. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Recognize the Honourable Member for Cape Breton West.
I too, Mr. Speaker, would like to speak in favor of this particular piece of legislation. It's a good news piece of legislation by a very prominent member of the Conservative caucus. And the issue of the United Way, obviously, is one that plays a very significant role in the on the island of Cape Breton. I know just this year they've embarked on another very ambitious campaign for fundraising, and an umbrella group speaking to, I believe it's 23 or 24 different charitable organizations throughout Cape Breton Island. They've helped many individuals and families who have come to require the support from the United Way. It's a very worthy organization, and as has been noted, not only within our region, provincially, nationally, and indeed internationally. So on behalf of our caucus, we'll certainly be supporting that piece of legislation in the spirit of the usual cooperative mode that minority government operates. Thank you.
Thank you. Recognize the Honourable Member for Colchester, Muscatawbet Valley. It'd be to close debate. Maybe we should go back out and come back in again.
Colleagues are wondering what you had for breakfast, Mr. Speaker, but look, thank you very much, and I want to thank honourable members,
Muscatawbet Valley has the floor.
especially the honourable members for Dartmouth South and Cape Breton West. I know the United Way is a fine organization. All members in the House feel that way, and we just appreciate the support, and I would move that we move for second reading. Thank you.
Motion is for second reading, Bill 69. Is the House ready for the question? All those in favor say aye. Contrary-minded, nay. Motion is carried.
Bill 69, title and act to amend Chapter 73, the Act of 1972, an act to incorporate the Halifax-Dartmouth United Appeal.
Order this bill refer to the Committee on Private and Local Bills. The Honourable Deputy Premier.
Would you please call Bill number 71, an act to incorporate the Nova Scotia Drama League?
Bill number 71. The Honourable Deputy Premier.
On behalf of the member from Halifax, Chester St. Margaret's, I'm happy to move second reading of Bill number 71.
The Honourable Member for Sackville-Cobequid.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and just a brief comment on it. I just want to encourage the government to continue their support and ensure that support is given to our theatres throughout our province, especially now leading into this summer and tourism season. And many festivals and activities will happen throughout the summer, and I encourage them to continue that. They have their support and the means to continue these festivals and on to next year and for future years. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. I recognize the honourable member for Cape Breton West.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd certainly like to speak in favor of this, but also to remind the government on the very principle of what this bill speaks to, and that is the support for live theatre throughout Nova Scotia and how it promotes our history, our culture, and many of the historical features that Nova Scotia is noted for. But it's very unfortunate, Mr. Speaker, that when it came to the Eastern Front live theatre in Dartmouth, what did they do? They cut funding. They cut funding. So I wanted to... Yes. 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 So, but I just wanted to put that on the record. I support the principle of the bill. We'll support it going to second reading. And with that, Mr. Speaker, on behalf of our caucus, and again in the spirit of cooperation and a minority government, we will support this initiative.
Recognize the honourable Deputy Premier to close debate on Bill number 71. Honourable Deputy Premier.
Debate on Bill number
71.
71. I move second reading.
Motion is for second reading of Bill 71. Is the House ready for the question? All those in favour say aye. Counterminded nay. Motion is carried.
Bill 71, title, an act to amend Chapter 99 of the Acts of 1951, an act to incorporate the Nova Scotia Drama League.
Whereas bill will be referred to the Committee on Private and Local Bills. The Honourable Deputy Premier.
Mr. Speaker, so everybody doesn't get lost along the way, we're going to revert back to tabling reports, regulations, other papers. Then we're going to go on a committee, the whole House on bills, and go on to Bill number 17. So, Mr. Speaker, thank you. Mr. Speaker, would you recognize, please, the Minister of Health?
To table the terms of reference of a review of events.
Order, please. Order, please. Honourable Government.
Reports, regulations, other papers.
Table reports, regulations, and other papers. Sorry, the Honourable Minister of Health.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I wish to table the terms of reference of a review of events around the Critchfeld-Jacob disease in Nova Scotia in May 2004.
Thank you. The document is tabled. The Honourable Deputy Premier.
I move that you do now leave the chair and the House resolves into a committee, the whole House on bills.
Agreed?
Chair, would you please call Bill number 17, the Youth Secretariat Act.
Bill number 17, the Youth Secretariat Act. I'll recognize the honourable member for Cape Breton West.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I thank the Honourable Government House Leader for calling this issue today. I'll be very brief. First of all, I'd like to acknowledge and give full appreciation and credit to the Minister of Education and his staff for recognizing the value of this particular piece of legislation and making some rather substantive and positive amendments to it. The general principles and the features are, number one, it will take this particular youth secretariat from the domain and the responsibility of 7 government departments down to 1. Number two, it will require an annual report to be filed before this House so as to allow all young Nova Scotians the opportunity to have their voice heard at the provincial government level. And indeed, Mr. Speaker, the added features that are to that are self-explanatory, and I would certainly ask for the approbation of the committee. Thank you.
Question has been called. Shall the clauses carry? Carried. Shall the title carry? Shall the bill carry? I'll recognize the Government House Leader.
Speaker, Mr. Chairman, I move that your committee do now rise and report this bill.
Chairman of the Committee of the Whole House reports.
The committee's met, considered one bill, Bill number 17, and the chairman's been instructed to recommend it to the House without amendment.
Is he agreed? The Honourable Government House Leader.
Speaker, with the consent of the House, could we have unanimous agreement to move Bill 17 into third reading?
Is it agreed?
Speaker, would you please call bill number, would you please go to the order of business, public bills for third reading?
Public bills for third reading.
Mr. Speaker, would you please call bill number 17?
Bill number 17. The Honourable Member for Cape Breton West.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I so move.
Motion is for third reading of Bill number 17. Is the House ready for the question? All those in favor say aye. Contrary-minded, nay. Motion is carried.
17, title and act to amend Chapter 511 of the revised statutes 1989, the Youth Secretariat Act.
Order the bill do pass, or the title be as read by the clerk, order the bill be engrossed. The Honourable Government House Leader.
How much time? 5 minutes? Mr. Speaker, we have 5 minutes remaining, so, Mr. Speaker, I wonder if we could go back to public bills for second reading.
Public bills for second reading.
Mr. Speaker, I'm just looking through the order paper, and we could, with the agreement of the House, Mr. Speaker, I could call Bill 68 if anybody wishes to speak on that bill. Okay. Mr. Speaker, would you please call Bill 68?
Bill number 68.
Minister of Justice, I move second reading of Bill number 68, the International Interests in Mobile Aircraft Equipment Act.
The Honourable Member for Eastern Shore, Gull Harbour Eastern Passage.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I guess I wanted to take a couple of minutes to talk about Bill number 68, which if anyone has actually noticed, someone was making this juxtaposition to me the other day. Bill 68 under a minority government is an act to allow international interests in mobile aircraft equipment. Bill number 68, when the Tories were a majority, was quite a different bill. And I find it interesting, and I think in the spirit of the last 15 minutes, I think it's interesting, though, to just make that point that in this minority government, the type of legislation we're seeing come forward by the government, by the opposition parties, I mean, just recognizing Bill 68 then, Bill 68 now, we begin to see the difference, what a difference can make when we know that we have a government that's being, I guess, lack of a better term, having its feet held to the fire through a minority government. We see legislation that is one that is ensuring we're going to have solid legislation, one that involves consultation, one that involves discussions with stakeholders, Mr. Speaker. On most cases, I'll leave work in the spirit of a Friday afternoon, I'll leave workers' compensation to another day, Mr. Speaker. But for today, I can say that I just think it's interesting that Bill 68 under a minority government is a very, very, very different piece of legislation than Bill 68 was in 2002 when we had to deal with the nurses' strike and we had to deal with lab technologists and healthcare workers and what they were dealing with. And sitting in this House, I'm sure the members across remember having to hold quorum at 2 o'clock in the morning and having to sit through those long hours. There might have been 2 people on this side, and there had to be 15 on that side, Mr. Speaker. I guess we all recall that. I particularly remember, probably you, Mr. Speaker, and the member from Colchester Musquodoboit would particularly recall having to sit in that chair hour after hour after hour during Bill 68. So I think it's interesting to see the difference that can be made when you have a minority government and all parties are willing to recognize that when a mandate is provided for a minority government, it forces us to have to sit down and to talk to other people as well. And I think that that's what's important, Mr. Speaker. And I think that those are the type of things that we're glad to see. With regard to this particular piece of legislation, I believe this is related to a treaty, I think, or some form of agreement that's been made, and we're just ratifying it here in this province. So anything that will allow for our aeronautics industry as budding that it is, Mr. Speaker, I think it's a good opportunity for us to ensure that we actually are able to be part of international agreements on this, or are able to bring forward and allow for the movement of parts and the movement of aircraft so that we're able to continue to be, whether it's a budding industry or whether it's industries that are already here like Pratt & Whitney and others, or at the airport, it's a good opportunity to allow that. And you know, Mr. Speaker, having an airport in my riding at Shearwater, there's a lot of debate right now about what will be happening with that, whether it's in the repair of aircraft, whether it's in the dealing of aircraft for purposes of private use, Mr. Speaker. A lot of people talk about the potential of Shearwater as a second air base that could be used for very specific means, very specific issues, whether it's some sort of aeronautic industry or whether it's just servicing private aircraft, Mr. Speaker. Hopefully this legislation is one component that will help ensure that that kind of thing can go forward and won't be stalled, Mr. Speaker, and I'm glad that I had a chance to speak on this, and our caucus will be supporting it at second reading.
Recognized honourable member for Cape Breton West.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Very quickly, because we don't have a tremendous amount of detail at this point, we will support it going on to law amendments, allow our critic at the appropriate time when it either law amendments or committee of the whole to deal with any proposed amendments or issues. So with that, we'll certainly support it going on to law amendments.
Recognized honourable Deputy Premier to close debate on bill number 68.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, in 3 words. This is an ICAO bill, the International Convention of Aviation Organization, and Mr. Speaker, it is a bill under the Uniform Law Act. So, Mr. Speaker, I move third reading.
Motion is for second reading. Motion is for second reading, bill number 68. Is the House ready for the question? All those in favor say aye. Countermanded nay. Motion is carried.
Bill 68, entitled An Act to Implement the Convention on International Interests in Mobile Equipment in Matters Specific to Aircraft Equipment.
Or this bill be referred to the Committee on Law Amendments. Honourable Government House Leader.
I move the House to now rise to meet again on Monday at the hour of 2 p.m. The House will sit from 2 p.m. until 10 p.m. And the order of business following 4 hours of supply will be public bills for second reading. Mr. Speaker, I move the House to now rise.
Motion is the House adjourned until 2 p.m. Monday. Is it agreed? All those in favor say aye. Countermanded nay. Motion is carried. The House adjourned to 2 p.m. Monday.